Welcome to the Stressless Eating Podcast, where we help diet-obsessed and food-crazed women break themselves out of the food and body prison, end the dieting madness, and take control of their health for good. I'm your host, Leanne Ellington, and this podcast is about answering one question. How can you heal your relationship with food and your body and take a practical approach to this whole self-love journey, but without all that restriction, obsession, and shame, and without needing years of therapy to do so? If you want to know the answer, you're in the right place. All this information is 100% free, so please subscribe to and review our podcast. Okay, so a few weeks ago, a really good friend of mine essentially double dog dared me to enter into the Miss Tennessee for America beauty pageant by texting me with a text that literally said, "What if you did the Miss Tennessee for America pageant?" And so among other reasons, he knew that because it was so far outside my comfort zone, there was a massive breakthrough waiting for me on the other side of it. But as he said to me that day, I had to, quote him by saying, get on the court in order to find that breakthrough. So my immediate reaction was like, no way. Are you friggin' kidding me? Like, me enter into a beauty pageant? But I just let it soak in for a moment, and I texted him back with, and I'm literally just quoting you. I went back through my texts as I went to, share this with you. I texted him back with, "I'm super curious to hear your thoughts and intentions behind this double dog dare," because of course I wanted to know, why is he saying this to me? It's not random, because he's a man that lives with intention. And so he answered me with a voice memo that I transcribed to share with you all on this episode. And he said, "Okay, so there's a few different pageants. There's Miss and Mrs., and they both have a state and a national pageant. And yeah, I think it would be a great opportunity for you because one, getting outside of your comfort zone. It's something that you've never done or even thought about doing before. And what does that do? Well, it causes transformation. And what does that look like? I have no idea, right? But you have to get on the court in order to experience it. Two, I think it would create some really incredible content for you for what you're doing and the message that you're delivering to other women, just the emotions, the courage behind it all, the stepping out to do something that scares you. I think it's just an opportunity for leadership. And third, it's an opportunity to be elegant and feel beautiful and graceful and feminine, which, side note, he's always just inviting me into that, really just embracing that side of me. And so his message went on to say, he goes, I was at the Miss Mississippi for America pageant this past weekend, and that's how I found out about this. And it was noticeable. The girls who were the most feminine won. And these girls were super accomplished. One gal has her own law practice and set up her own feeding the homeless mission. I mean, really big platforms. And that's the other thing too. You get a platform to share your own message for what you stand for women. And I'm not sure, it's a pretty big deal, I guess. But you get to represent Tennessee as Miss Tennessee for America. And then he said, I don't know, I just thought it was cool. And you walk away with some new friends, some new context for being outside of your comfort zone and all that. And he goes, you'll have to look into it some more, but there's an evening gown and there's an interview section and you get to be a stand for your platform. Anyways, I just thought of you and I was like, what the hell? What a cool story. Life's a movie, write your own script. He says cool stuff like that. And he said, I'm not saying this is your script or that you should do it. I just thought of you and I thought it would be something really cool for a beautiful woman like yourself. And it's an opportunity to get an evening gown and try something new. And I know you're always up for that kind of stuff. So I don't know, just putting it out there. Let me know what you think. So yeah, that was his message. So there I am, and I'm sitting at a coffee shop across from Luke, who is the genius behind all of the tech and all that good stuff for this podcast. And my mind starts racing. And if you had asked me a few weeks ago if there was a better chance of me joining a professional bodybuilding competition or entering into a beauty pageant, I probably would not have even considered the beauty pageant. And okay, not the bodybuilding competition either, but you get my point. This was not even on my radar, let alone something that I would actively think about participating in. And now it was totally on my radar, and I was being invited to join for all these amazing reasons. And so as you can probably imagine, the voices in my head, because I'm not immune to it, they all started chattering, saying things like, Leanne, you're too old, or you're not a size 2, or you're too much fill in the blank of this, or not fill in the blank of that, or not enough of this, or not enough of that, or things like, you know nothing about pageants, or the big one was like, who the hell are you to think you could even win something like that? And then it's weird, like I heard this higher voice in me say, like, Leanne, that's exactly why you need to do this. Like, this is your chance to redefine and help others redefine what beauty is and what beauty is not. And that beauty doesn't have to mean a certain shape or a certain age or a size or weight. Like, that beauty is not a seeing, it is a being. And so I texted him back asking when it was. Like, I was thinking it was next year or a few months away. And he replied with, this is the funny part. He replied with July 12th. And this text exchange happened to be on, I think, like the 28th of June. And so I texted him back with a bunch of surprised emojis. And then I responded with, can I really be ready that fast? And he texted me back the answer that pushed me over the edge. He said, Leanne, I believe in you. What if you were already ready, like right now, for anything? And of course, like that spoke straight to my heart. So what did I do? Yep, at the ripe old age of 37, with no experience, no knowledge, and not a clue about anything beauty pageant related, I signed up to compete less than 2 weeks out. And so for me, it was the epitome of me facing my own deepest fears and insecurities and comparisonitis tendencies. And it was my own self-image and body image experiment to break through my own residual self-limiting beliefs. And it was really just an experience that I'm honestly still processing, and I really am just figuring out how to share it right now. And so I'm going to share the details of how everything went down, but before I do, I'll just summarize my experiences by saying this. And really, the theme of the message of this episode is you get to say who you are and who you are not. And if you want to do anything, the only thing stopping you are those voices in your head saying that you can't or saying that you won't. And 4 weeks ago, I thought you had to be some skinny mini or in your 20s to be in a beauty pageant. But after my experience, I think it's safe to say that that is just not the case. And so just in case you're wondering, spoiler alert, this non-beauty pageant gal was chosen as third runner-up for the entire state of Tennessee. I was voted to be an ambassador for the Miss for America organization and really help with all the behind the scenes stuff and mentor the teen version and all of that. And I am officially Miss East Nashville. So I'm laughing because it's all kind of like a fun reality check, you know, and I'm laughing with, I'm proud and all that, but it's just like such a shock as you're hearing in this story. But that's the point. It's like, never say never. Like, I never thought I'd be in a beauty pageant, let alone be the third runner up for the entire state of Tennessee. And so never say never, because you might just surprise yourself. And as you're going to hear, like, I really surprised myself. And so here's what happened in between all of that. Okay, so here I am, less than 2 weeks out, and now all of a sudden, I have a beauty pageant to prepare for. So fortunately, my really good friend Jen, or Jennifer, she has experience in the pageant world, and she knew how to coach me, and luckily, she agreed to coach me. She was actually really excited about it, and so she agreed to meet with me that evening to go over everything, and there was a lot to go over. So now let me just set the stage for you as well. The application and video for my platform and all of that good stuff, it was due on July 1st, okay? July 1st was also the date that I was launching this podcast. And I was heading out of town for a few days on a quest to recharge my batteries at the beach. So I only had a few days to get the ball rolling on everything and figure things out. And it was things I didn't normally have to think about. Like, there was hair and makeup, of course, and they had a gal that they recommended, and she was awesome. But like getting a spray tan, like, and thankfully that same friend Jennifer, she also has her own mobile tanning business, and she's like the best in the biz for sunless tanning. Like, seriously, this woman is like an artist. But then of course the big thing, like getting a gown. And I also needed an outfit for the interview portion and an outfit for the luncheon that they were taking us to. And they just told us to get something red, white, or blue for that. Oh yeah, and I needed to learn how to walk in high heels because this gal is all about function over fashion. And since my spine surgery 12 years ago, I vowed, not to take the orthopedic risk by wearing high heels because I know how orthopedically unsound they are. And so not only did I need to find heels, I had to learn how to walk in them, and not just walk in them. I had to learn how to pose and essentially be runway ready for the pageant. And so thankfully, once again, Jennifer had my back on all of this. So I also needed to fill out an extensive application, and I had to answer a lot of questions, including sharing a bit about myself and answering questions, talking about my platform, which of course, as you can guess, I chose the whole topic of self-imaging and body imaging and the concept of stressless eating. We also needed to either share a one-page PDF about our platform or create a 3-minute video. And so looking at my timeline for everything, including the fact that I had a podcast to launch that same day and I was leaving town, in my mind, I decided I would just do the PDF. But the next day, Julie, who's the pageant director, and she owns the franchise for the Miss and the Misses for Tennessee and Mississippi. She's awesome too, but she called me to do a call because obviously she needed to talk to me about some things since I was joining last minute. And she said to me after I asked her about the PDF, she's like, Leanne, just talking to you and hearing how you speak, I would definitely recommend doing a video. So I was like, okay, there it is. Now I have a video to do. And so just a little side note, in our stressless eating program, we work heavily on beliefs. So finding old, unserving ones and the limiting beliefs and building better ones. And I know that if my clients have underlying beliefs about themselves, by the way, you never have to have them because we can create them and uncreate them at any time we choose, but it's always going to come back or bring them back to their default beliefs. So a big part of what we do is we shift their beliefs. So for example, a lot of clients, and this is a big one, this is probably the most common one, a lot of my clients come to me thinking they have anxiety because they've experienced themselves as an anxious person for so long. And they think this is just who I am or this is what I do, I am anxious. But most of the time, it's not a chemical diagnosed anxiety, or it has been diagnosed, but it's not this is who they are. They've just practiced a recipe of thoughts and beliefs and habits that have created anxiety, and therefore they practice it. And of course, the only reason I figured this out is because that was it for me. I was like, oh, I have anxiety. And then I realized no, I've just been practicing anxiety. And so I just need to simply help them figure out what is their anxiety recipe, as I call it, in the ingredients for practicing that. And then what is their non-anxiety? And I'm telling you, these women, they come to me after experiencing anxiety for decades and all of a sudden it's just gone. But it all comes back to the underlying belief that it's possible for them to not be anxious. And if they think this is just who I am, or they have the belief that I have anxiety versus nope, I've just been practicing anxiety, until we shift that belief, they're going to live into anxiety as an idea, or as an identity, I should say. Does that make sense? So back to the whole pageant thing, a few days before the pageant, I was walking with Laura Lee, who you've heard on this podcast, and she also happens to be one of my absolute best friends. And we were talking about all the stuff that I had to do, the podcast and the video and the gown and all the pageant stuff. And she asked me, she's like, Leanne, are you stressed out? And I was like, yeah, I feel some stress, but I'm not freaking out, or I don't feel super stressed out. And she said to me, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen you get super stressed out. And I just immediately said to her, I was like, yeah, I get stressed like any other woman, but I have this overarching belief that I just always get it all done. It doesn't matter because, first of all, I don't commit to anything unless I'm committed to doing it. I won't say that I'm going to do something and not do it because my word and my integrity is everything. And that's a big part of self-image, as my clients know as well. But I have this belief that I just always get shiz done. Like, I'm not somebody who allows things to not get done. Like, I always get it done. And yeah, even if there's like a lot to do in a little bit of time or I have to hustle, like, I'm not going to freak or stress out about it because, again, I have that overarching belief that I always just get it done. And so I don't have to give myself pep talks every time stress arises or like cure my anxiety in the moment. Like, it just manages itself. And that's the power of overwriting your deep down subconscious beliefs. So that's one example. So back to my beliefs about this pageant. First of all, I wasn't freaking out about all the stuff that I had to do because, again, I have that overarching belief, but you better believe that some of my old like fat goggles beliefs were showing up for me. I mean, I just told you that some of my self-talk chatter was like, I'm too old or I'm too fat. Like, so, okay, there's that, right? And so here's what I'll say about that. When you dive in to do the work, it's not like all that other stuff just magically goes away. Like, if you've been talking that way to yourself for a long time, again, it's not going to just magically go away forever. Like, sometimes even the oldest stories that you've already dealt with and reconciled, they'll pop back up. Like, that's how the brain works. But as you're leveling up your beliefs and shifting patterns, who you show up as in the face of all of that is what absolutely transforms. So when those old thoughts show up, they don't have the power over you anymore. And they don't influence the behaviors and habits that show up off the back of them. And so, side note, those beliefs and thoughts are usually what causes us to run for food or like diss our body when we look in the mirror or any of those old patterns that you're probably experiencing right now. So anyways, back to my own stuff, as I call it, like my own beliefs, right? This pageant, it put me face to face with all of my own fears and insecurities. And just like I'm assuming Oprah and Cindy Crawford and the Dalai Lama, and I'm just like choosing people that you generally think of that have confidence. I'm not comparing myself to them, but I'm just thinking of confident people. You get the point. But like I knew that, again, like we all have our own insecurities. And I knew that this part of this pageant for me, I should say, and why I was doing this, it was about me facing them head on. And so I don't know if you've ever heard this quote, this like saying, but it's new level, new devil. And so this pageant was me taking my own self-image and confidence to the next level. And so of course there were new fears showing up. And so that same friend that dared me to do the pageant, he shared something with me long ago one time that I'll never forget. And I often think about it. And he said, Leanne, fear is peeing in your pants. Courage is showing up with wet pants. And so this pageant was me totally just showing up with wet pants. So the gown. So Jennifer and I went to a few different places to find a gown, and we ended up going to this one place called the Showroom in Nashville. And by the way, if you're ever in Nashville, you have to stop in there. And the owner, Kristen, is absolutely amazing. But the concept of the showroom is you can either rent or you can buy their clothes. And so before we went to the showroom, there was one dress that I found at one of those like wedding bridal gown shops. But at the showroom, I probably had like 10 that I could have chosen from that I would have been really happy in. And the cool thing is about the showroom, like they get a bunch of stuff from award shows and music videos and stuff like that because there's a lot of, celebrities and that kind of thing in Nashville. So you're literally trying on these amazing gowns and you can buy them if you want to, but you also can rent them if you want. And so the experience there was so amazing because when you try on a bunch of gowns that you don't feel good in or you don't like, it can totally put a damper in how you're feeling. Like you can leave a place feeling super deflated, right? But when you try on stuff that works and you feel amazing in anything, like it makes such a big difference. So I left there feeling like a total rock star. Like I said, there were probably 10 gowns that I could have gone with. But I ended up finding this amazing black gown with a slit and feathers at the top and had this beautiful train. And when I tried it on, all three of us, like myself, Jennifer, and Kristen, the owner of the showroom, we were all like, yes, this is the one. And so, so another little side note about this whole experience. This put me, again, this is all about like facing all of my stuff, right? So this put me front and center, in the face of what I call reverse body dysmorphia. And so most people have like heard of typical body dysmorphia. It's when you see your body in the mirror and you never think that like it's skinny enough or, toned enough or pretty enough or something like that, right? What I call reverse body dysmorphia, like I gave it a term because I didn't know what else to call it. It's something that I made up for me. But over the years, like I'll look in the mirror and I'll see my own reflection and I'll be like, wow, Leanne, because I've done all this work on myself and I see myself now in a different way. I'll be like, wow, Leanne, like you're beautiful, or I love your body. And it's almost like a surprise every single time, because in a way I forget that my body doesn't look that way anymore. Like it doesn't look the way it used to. And this is another thing I had to own when I was trying on all these gowns. And it was like this beautiful experience being able to go in and fit into pretty much anything I wanted to wear. And here's the contrast. Like ask my poor mom, like my amazing mom. She's an angel, right? Like ask her what it was like shopping with me when I was younger and when I was a young adult. I mean, I can tell you countless times that I would just like leave the store and run to the car crying because nothing fit me. I mean, I remember like at my bat mitzvah when I was 13, it was so hard to find a dress because I was a 13-year-old, but I only fit into like adult women's clothes. But they weren't the right style for a 13-year-old. So you can understand, like, this was a really big deal for me. By the way, that was my life. Like, clothing was my kryptonite. Like, I never was able to really just wear what I wanted to wear. I was always wearing, like, what covered me up, what fit me, like, men's sweaters and stuff like that. Like, and so you can understand, like, this was a really big deal for me to be able to go in and shop and wear anything I wanted to. Like, Kristen just kept bringing me stuff. Like, we would joke because she'd bring me stuff and I'd be like, Kristen, this is a size 6. And she's like, don't worry, I can get you into it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing a size 6. But like, I mean, she zipped me into it, But anyways, in my black dress, the one I got ended up being a size 8. And like, I was never a size 8. So anyways, you can, imagine what a big deal this was for me. And so I can only imagine what women feel like when they find that perfect wedding dress. But when I tried on this black dress with the feathers at the top, it was like a wow moment. And it was like, oh yeah, this is the dress, right? And so now, more importantly, like I could launch my podcast and leave for my trip, which like I said was the same day that everything was due, at least knowing that the most important part of the whole pageant thing was taken care of, the gown. Okay, so fast forward to after I got back from my trip and I had less than a week until the pageant. So there was still so much to do, like, prepping myself for the interview questions, practicing every single day, walking in heels, letting Jennifer show me how to do all the poses, scheduling my nails and my tan and all that good stuff. And I still had to figure out what I was wearing for the interview and the red, white, and blue luncheon that they were providing for us. So I ended up choosing this yellow dress that I already owned, but I had actually never worn and I really just totally forgot about, but it was perfect for the interview segment. And I decided I would just go back to the showroom and rent something for the red, white, and blue luncheon. And so you can see photos of all of this on my social media, but we'll also put them on the blog post for this episode alongside with the show notes. But needless to say, I got it all done, and the day of the pageant was here in no time. So I woke up super early that day to head to Chastity's house, the woman who was doing my hair and makeup, and she is who they recommended for hair and makeup for the pageant. And just my luck, it was pouring down rain all morning. But again, I knew that like whatever would happen. And I just equipped myself with a poncho and an umbrella because, just like I teach my clients, influence what you can and release what you can't, right? So the next unexpected lesson for me, again, these are lessons that I didn't even know would be coming up. The hair and makeup was such a shock for me because I'm typically used to, essentially wearing chapstick and a little bit of mascara. And, lately I've been playing around with actual lipstick, but a bit more, but you get the point. Like I don't wear a lot of makeup. And so when I saw myself in the mirror all done up, it was such a shock. I mean, first of all, Chastity did an amazing job, but I jokingly said to her, I'm like, I kind of feel like a drag queen with all of this makeup that I have on, you know? And so she and Jennifer, they comforted me and assured me by letting me know, like, this is exactly what you need for the stage so that your features pop. And they were totally right. Like, it looked great in the photos. But that in itself was a big awareness for me. Like, I had a moment of awareness where I was like, wow, I feel more beautiful when I'm not wearing a lot of makeup. Like, how interesting is that? That was like a big lesson for me, that I'm like, wow, you know, you can fall in love with your natural beauty. And you know, it's not a seeing, it's a being. But sometimes the seeing isn't actually what makes you feel the most beautiful. So anyways, I digress. So the rest of the day, it seemed to fly by. So I was in the first batch of girls. So how it worked was I went and I got my interview outfit on and I did my interviews with the judges, which of course I totally rocked because that is my strong suit. And then we got into our gowns while the other gals, they were doing their interviews. And so for the interview section, basically, there were 6 judges and you essentially did like speed dating with them, where you sat with them for about 5 minutes each and they asked you all sorts of questions, including like why you want to be Miss Tennessee for America. And they ask you questions about your platform and they ask you questions about your personal life, all of it. And so I really felt confident about the interview portion and I felt like I totally rocked it. Then it was time for me to get my gown on and get ready for that. So, how it works is you're in your gown and in your heels and you go in one at a time in front of the judges. And there's essentially like a runway. And so you walk down the runway, you do a turn, you do a couple poses, you walk back, you pose again, and then you leave. And it's really fast. It's over before you know it. And they're reading like a bit from your bio while you're walking. And that's the part, of course, that I was a little bit insecure about. I mean, I literally just learned how to walk in high heels and posing and connecting with the judges and all of that stuff was totally new to me. But I really just let it all, escape my mind. And I tried my best to just live in the moment and have fun and, dance with it. And so after everyone was done, it was about 4 p.m. And so they took all of us to Restoration Hardware in Nashville, which is this amazing furniture store that has a cafe, for appetizers and drinks. And if you've never been there, it's totally amazing. You should go. But at this point in time, everything that was being judged was over. And like, thank God, we could just enjoy and live in the moment and soak up the experience of the day. Like the judging part was over. So I ate some yummy food. I drank my oat milk latte, and then we went back to the venue for the awards and crowning ceremony. And so at this point, I was surprisingly calm, like I knew that whatever was supposed to happen would happen, like, and it was out of my control. And I also knew like that I was here for me. Like, I wasn't here for an award. I wasn't here for the recognition. Like, I was here to witness myself stepping into something that I'd never done and to show up as a version of myself that I have never met. And that's what this was about. And so, like, did I secretly want to win? Yeah, of course I did. But it wasn't just about that, okay? So what happened was they line you up and you have to do, like, they do what I think they called it the Parade of Beauties or something like that, where everyone just like walks down this runway in your gown and then you find a place on stage. And so, okay, here is the real kicker. You want to see the like behind the scenes of like, this is the epitome of Leanne Ellington in a beauty pageant. So I don't think I mentioned it, but I really didn't tell anybody about this pageant. Like, there was a handful of people that I went on that beach trip with that knew, but I didn't even tell my family. Like, I didn't even tell my mom until afterwards. I just wanted to give myself the gift of just giving it to myself and keeping it to myself and not needing to explain it or justify it or anything like that. Because truth be told, like, it was so last minute. I was still trying to figure it all out for myself, But ironically, that small group of friends that I told you about that did know, one time in a group text, I sent them all one of those GIFs, like those motion graphic things from Miss Congeniality, the movie, where it shows her like falling on stage and tripping when she gets her award. Like, that was my joke. Like, haha, this is going to be me in a beauty pageant. So I went the entire day, like everything was seamless. Everything was great. And then during that Parade of Beauties, which was in front of like a crowd, I was walking and I literally tripped over the train of my gown. Oh my gosh. And then, okay, so I just like caught myself, I composed myself, and then I tripped again. I'm not joking. I cannot make this stuff up, okay? So I finally just had to own it. And so I did like a little bow and a little curtsy, and I just laughed it off. And seriously, that is more than anything an indication of Leanne Ellington doing a beauty pageant. And of course, I can't see it going any other way. Like that is the epitome of me. I am like kind of a klutz. Okay. So back to the awards and crowning ceremony. So there I am, I'm standing there, and they start calling out the top 5, right? And I don't know what I expected, but like, I mean, I kind of expected not to win, but then there was also that voice in my head that was like, well, why wouldn't I win? Like I have a shot, you know? So they called 4 names, and I was not one of them. And by this point, my heart is racing. And then they called the 5th name. And it was me, Leanne Ellington, Miss East Nashville. So, oh my gosh, I was just like, I don't even know what I was feeling in that moment. Probably shock and gratitude and all those things. And they went on to, go down, share the rest. And I was crowned 3rd runner-up. And 3rd runner-up in the entire state of Tennessee. Like, what a moment. It was so, so cool. And so the rest of that night and the next day, it was like all kind of a blur. But I just know it was honestly less about the win and more about the like, holy crap, I just did that. Like I just entered a beauty pageant. I did what I set out to do. And like placing, 3rd runner up was really just the icing on the cake, And so first off, these other gals that I did the pageant with, they are amazing. Like every single one of them, so sweet, so kind, like these amazing platforms. These women are impressive, right? And not to mention absolutely gorgeous, just really, really good-hearted, good-natured girls. But if you also look at the top 5, like I was definitely by far the oldest by like 10 to 18 years. Like I was definitely the oldest, and I was definitely the only one not a size 2, like not drama about it, just that's the data, And I was the only one that didn't grow up doing pageants or was a professional model. A couple of them were professional models. But the point is, I did what I set out to do. Like I was there. Like the reason I did it was to redefine and help others redefine what beauty is and what it is not. And to show women that beauty doesn't have to mean a certain shape, a certain age, a certain size. That beauty is not a seeing, it is a being. And that you get to say who you are and who you are not. And if you want to do anything, the only thing stopping you are those voices in your head saying that you can't or saying that you won't. And again, 4 weeks ago, just a short 4 weeks ago, I thought you had to be some skinny mini or a model or in your 20s to be in a beauty pageant. But obviously, after my experiences that I shared, like obviously that's just not the case. Because yes, as I shared before, this non-beauty pageant gal was chosen as 3rd runner-up for the entire state of Tennessee. I was voted to be an ambassador for the Miss for America organization, and I am officially Miss East Nashville. I love saying that. And so that's the thing, ladies, like never say never, because you could totally surprise yourself. Like I sure as hell did. I'll tell you that, right? So now I'm going to turn it over to you. Again, where are you not trying something out of fear? Where are you sitting on the sidelines? Like, remember what my friend said. Fear is peeing in your pants. Courage is showing up with wet pants. So where's that area of your life where it's time to take the plunge and just show up with wet pants? Whether it's a new look out on health or your body or a job, a career, a relationship, whatever it is, where do you need to just take the plunge and show up with wet pants? And just like that same friend said to me, I don't know what's on the other side of it, but there is a breakthrough, a big one, and a chance to meet a version of yourself that you have never met. But again, you've got to get off the sidelines and go get on the court to find out what it is. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you heard and you're interested in breaking out of your own food, body, and diet prison, here's what I want you to do next. Head on over to stresslesseating.com. That's stresslesseating.com. and sign up to watch the Stressless Eating webinar, where I'll walk you through the exact 5-step game plan my female clients use to conquer emotional eating, self-sabotage, and finally heal themselves from the restrictive all-or-nothing diet mentality for good, but without obsessing or spending years in therapy to address it. I've laid it all out for you there in 5 easy steps. Remember, healing your relationship with food and your body does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen, and we've helped clients all over the world take back their power from the food and find true and lasting freedom, while enjoying life and warm chocolate chip cookies along the way. To see if we can help you do the same, head on over to stresslesseating.com. I'm Leanne Ellington, and I'll see you next time.